All right, everybody. Hi, here we're back. And the time has come for that for which we wait. The time has come. All right. So everything is, the wait has been a long one. We've discussed that, and they are foreseeing the consummation of their redemptive task. Let the flame become the fire, and let the light shine forth. The flame is characteristic of the solar angels, and the fire is characteristic of spirit. So we're talking about a transition from solar flame to the fire of spirit. They are both found within the causal body in a way, but the fire must break out. There's an inner fire and inner light. It's very insistent, and at the same time there's an outer fire that's going to be applied to the destruction of the causal body. So fire must come from within, fire must come from without, from above, from within, from the energy centers within the cosmic ethers. There is this Buddhic fire, the Buddhic aspect of the will, the second aspect of the will, the fire of the one initiator, the fire of the atomic triangle. Let us see the different kinds of fires. So, and let the light shine forth. So this is making a transition to the first aspect of divinity. I think so many of us are kind of schooled in the second aspect of divinity that we don't know what it might mean to enter a whole new way of life under the first aspect. Maybe we even shrink from that at times because it would mean to detach ourselves from form. Now, every one of the 7 rays must enter into the first aspect of divinity. It's easier for some than others, perhaps. The second ray types really have to learn detachment, and detachment is an aspect of the first ray related to the 5th ray. It's not easy to learn. The effort of the flame within the crystal cave becometh ever greater. So there is the flame within the crystal cave of the causal body. Why will we call the causal body the crystal cave? And the question is the entire causal body the crystal cave, or just a certain aspect of it? For instance, the area of the jewel, because we can understand that the jewel would be related to crystal. This term suggests power, beauty, perfect organization, and the power to absorb, reflect, and direct higher energies. Crystal cave. When you think of crystal cave, what comes to your mind? Yes. Okay, within the head, you say. Okay, but now here he's calling the causal body the crystal cave. See, the causal body itself he's calling the crystal cave, or maybe the center of the causal body, the crystal cave. We have to learn where the rod of initiation may be applied, but within every chakra there is a center of a crystal, kind of a jewel. Crystals suggest organization, 7th ray, reflection, the focusing of power, great energy. When you've looked at some of these caves in New Mexico or in Brazil, they have these immense crystals. It seems there's an organization of energy there. So it suggests certainly that which is on the 7th ray. There's rarely anything as well designed or organized as a crystal. Okay, the effort of the flame within the crystal cave becomes ever greater. This is within the causal body itself, maybe within the jewel and the lotus, maybe it's the inner flame. The inner flame, the central flame within the jewel and the lotus, representing the fire of the monad. The fire calls to the flame. The flame calls to the fire. It's reciprocal, becomes increasingly powerful and intense, and it is one of the major factors in the destruction of the causal body, even though, as in the 10th law of healing, it is the form that shatters the connection. So here is a quotation from stanza number, described in stanza number 7, and this is the 10th law of healing. Both soul and form together must renounce the principle of life, that's the monad, and thus permit the monad to stand free. So there's going to be a breaking away of the soul and of the lower form from the monad. The soul responds, the form then shatters the connection. So this is the role of the atomic triangle in breaking free and returning to its reservoirs, leaving the monad free. Life is now liberated, owning the quality of conscious knowledge from the soul and the fruit of all experience from the personality. These are the gifts of soul and form combined. The cry goes forth for other aid from other flaming souls. The response comes. What does that suggest to us? The cry goes forth from other flaming souls. The response comes. Well, yeah, the watchers are there. The watchers are there, and they are certainly assisting. But there's something in Rule 11 which talks about the way in which the members of the ashram augment the effort of the individual and the group. They strengthen the word which the individual is using. Let's take a look at that Rule 11, which is the rule related to the fourth initiation. Let's see if we have this. I'm saying here that the flaming souls are already liberated souls who are fourth degree initiates, and they are within the ashram. They have taken the fourth initiation, and they assist at the fourth initiation, and it's Rule 11. So let's look at that. No, that's the wrong one. Okay. The raised initiations, number, let's say 21. Okay. All right. It says, let the group together move the fire within the jewel in the lotus into the triad. First it goes to the triad. That's interesting. Then it returns to the monad later. And let them find the word which will carry out that task. Let them destroy by their dynamic will that which has been created at the midway point, and that is the causal body. When the point of tension is reached by the brothers at the fourth great cycle of attainment, then will this work be done. So somewhere in this rule, and I have not quite found the place, I didn't have time to look through it, it tells about how the members of the ashram augment the word that is sounding through the group and augment the effort of will that the group is making. See, this little rule that we just read is all about the group taking the fourth initiation. So, but that would apply to the individual as well. They are flaming souls. They have destroyed their causal body, and others who have not destroyed the causal body are in no position to help those who are doing so. Only those who have achieved the destruction of the causal body and who are fourth degree initiates in the ashram can lend their ashramic aid. So that's what I think this sentence is all about. The cry goes forth. It's an appeal. It's a request for other aid from other flaming souls. So it's you see how many different energy streams are involved in helping the individual and the group break out of this crystal cave. Okay. So this is group work, and the liberated ones lend their support. So let's see, now we're going to talk about the work of the one initiator who is also lending his support. So where is the breakout energy coming from now? So within the fire within the jewel in the lotus is seeking to break out. The connection of the atomic triangle to the higher periodical vehicles is being severed by the rotary fire that is present in the atomic triangle. The form is shattering the connection. There is going to be energy from without, from the Buddhic plane, the second aspect of the will. The monad is going to be invoked to lend its power to the breakout. It's not just what's going on inside the jewel. It's also the energy of the monad which is going to be called on. And now, so to speak, Sanat Kumara, as the one initiator, will lend the coup de grace. So, the final blow. The Lord of Flame, the Ancient One. This is a singular, right? The Lord of Flame, the Ancient One, the mighty Lord of Fire. Let me just make sure that I'm right. The mighty Lord of Fire, the point of blue within the hidden diamond. What an interesting name for Sanat Kumara. The point of blue within the hidden diamond. The hidden diamond is supposedly, what is this? Is this the jewel in the lotus, or is this the jewel in the monad itself? Because the monad is a jewel as well. Is this the point of blue within the monad? The point of blue within the hidden diamond, the youth of timeless eons, and what's the other name that's just like this? The youth of, what? Endless summers, right? The youth of timeless eons, the youth of endless summers. Okay. Assisteth, well, you remember that one? Yeah, there was a song there. Assisteth in the work. So these are all names for the great Lord. The Lords of the Flame is a term that is related to intraplanetary Kumaras. Intra means within, and inter means between, right? Intra is inside something. So how many Kumaras do we have in our planet? Basically. Sometimes it's the number 5, right? But is that correct? How many Kumaras do we have? Well, yeah, not necessarily active, but how many Kumaras are there within this planet? Intraplanetary Kumaras. Well, that maybe that's a good question. Maybe it was that way. But he said now that most of the positions that were taken up at first by the 105 Kumaras have been taken by humanity. So the main guiding Kumaras are 7 at this time. There is the 3 Buddhas of activity. Each one of them is a Kumara. There are 3 esoteric Buddhas. They are Kumaras. And there is the one Kumara in the center, who is the first Kumara and yet the 4th Kumara, and that is Sanat Kumara. So if all of those positions have been taken now by human beings, we have no more of the original Kumaras remaining on our planet, but we do have a guiding 7. Now, I'm not sure about the specific details, whether all positions have been taken, but I think all or most have been taken. So anyway, the Lords of the Flame are often solar angels, but they're also Kumaras. And now we're talking simply about the Lord of Flame, who is the one initiator, and he is the Lord of the world. He is the liberator of man at the 4th initiation, and without him, there will be no 4th initiation. Now, look, not everybody is on the path of initiation. You know, there are going to be a lot of people who are just going to, what can I say, ascend with the mass, as it were. They will ascend with the mass. They will not specifically be subjected to the forcing process of initiation. Sometimes we act as if everybody's going to go through the initiatory path. There is a type of elevation of humanity stage by stage, but it is not the strictly forcing process where you actually meet the conveyor of this great energy as the Christ or Sanat Kumara. So there are beautiful names here. I love these names. They're just very powerful. The Lord of Flame, the Ancient One, the Mighty Lord of Fire. Woo! Wow. Representing the spirit aspect, right? The point of blue within the hidden diamond. Sanat Kumara is identified very much with the 2nd ray as well as the 1st. If he really is the planetary logos, his rays are 1, 2, 3. If he is an extension of the planetary logos, as an emanation, his rays may still be 1, 2, 3. But if you are an emanation, are you necessarily having the same rays as that which emanated you? That is a question. So anyway, I can't answer that, but I can only say that he is strongly identified with the 2nd ray, at least at this time. What is it called? He's the great sacrifice, and he is the major example of the teaching ray upon this planet. Is it not said so? The major example of the teaching ray upon this planet, Sanat Kumara. Let's just see if there is something there that says that. Whoa, that was wrong. I hit the wrong button. Be careful about hitting the wrong button. Okay. It's acting a little slow. Okay. Teaching ray, Sanat. I'm not sure whether it's Lord. Maybe Lord. Maybe Lord will do it. Teaching ray, blah, blah, blah. Okay. The Master KH, the Choan on the teaching ray, no, it's not here. But he is the major example. He's the major teacher on our planet. And I can't find it exactly, but that's close. Let me just see if I can do this. Teaching ray. Maybe there's 9. Maybe it'll come that way. Christ Buddha on this ray, the great teaching ray. Second ray souls. Teaching ray, thereupon teaching ray. Okay, here it is. Here it is. At that place, directly under the eye of the one initiator, who is, as is seldom realized, the highest expression of the teaching ray upon the earth, is found what might be termed the central office for the educational disciplinary training of the hierarchy. So we're talking about the one fundamental school in Shambhala. So here the one initiator is the highest expression of the teaching ray upon our planet. Do we find that surprising when we think about the rays of Sanat Kumara? He's everything that the Christ aspires to be. He is a direct disciple of the solar logos. Okay, so that's page 302, and I just want to write that down. Okay, LOM 302. When you get a good reference, you know, it may be years before it comes up again. So you have to do your best to capture it so other people can use it. All right, so it's highest expression of the teaching ray. It's a little tedious, but it works. Kumara, Lord of World, highest expression of the teaching ray on earth. Lord of the world. Okay, so he has a very strong second ray, and at the present time, it is the second ray soul of our planetary logos which is emerging at this time. So this is what the reappearance of the Christ is all about. This is what is happening at this time. Okay, I just have to. Yeah, very good. Okay. Now moving on. Okay. So he is the point of blue, and that's a strong second ray identification. And since he is the point of blue within the diamond, think about this. If you wish to invoke Sanat Kumara, or what he represents, the idea of the blue-white diamond is very fitting, isn't it? In other words, when you focus on the blue-white light, you are in a way attuning with this great being. So I want to write that down. Use the blue-white diamond light to invoke the great Lord of Shambhala. And so when we do this at the time of the full moon, we visualize the peak of the Antakarana as being blue-white. Sometimes we do that, the blue-white diamond. This is the section from the old commentary which suggests the appropriateness of doing that. Okay. So let's, beautiful names, etc., etc. Marvelous association with the second ray in this color blue, yes. It is inferred here that without the intervention of Sanat Kumara, the liberation of the jiva from the causal body, egoic lotus, could not occur. So this is our consummation, this is our liberation. It means we no longer need to take incarnation. We have finished our curriculum within the human family if we wish to. Of course, many do return to incarnation, or they don't die at this point, and they continue on to take the fifth initiation in the same life. It seems like maybe in the East people die less at the fourth initiation. Maybe at the West somewhat more, following the example of Master Jesus. But in the East, it's called the Great Renunciation, and there seems to be many ways to renounce all things, to become an arhat, and to retain your body to take the fifth initiation in the same incarnation. Which do you prefer? Would you prefer crucifixion or renunciation if you had to differentiate between the two? Well, it's a choice, you know, and we're presented with the choice. Maybe in the East, well, maybe there are more opportunities along the other line. Did you say? What was the word? Art? Asked. Uh, yes, it'll come as a letter, and you have to check one box or the other. Crucifixion or renunciation. But actually, if you look at the two, I think you can define them equally. You have to detach yourself from the four elementals and from the elemental life. And as DK said, it's often such a life of extreme difficulty that everything apparently is lost in order for everything to be gained and restored. So I know a lot of people. I have a number of friends who are passing through the fourth initiation these days. And their life is so hard, you know what I mean. They lose their car, they lose their house, they lose their girlfriend. I mean, that's a good fourth initiation issue, the loss of a girlfriend or boyfriend. But perhaps it's just a little closer to the second initiation, or not even that. Or perhaps it's just an ordinary human experience from someone who has studied the teaching too carefully. Okay. The great mistake. Yes, so before we jump to the conclusion that the fourth initiation is what we're passing through, we should perhaps restrain ourselves a little bit. And DK actually had the unenviable task of having to explain to one of his very good disciples that, as I've said before, that no, you're not taking the fourth initiation, but if you work very hard, you might take the second. And this was a tough job to explain this to this individual, because this person had a lot of students and was well known and was author of books and blah blah blah, and of course, being a good disciple, as soon as he heard what Master DK had to say, he quit. That's how disciples this can happen, But it must be very tough when you have a certain self-image, an image of yourself, as being something, even something high, whatever, and then the master kind of tries to let you down lightly, It was just masterful the way DK wrote his words to this man. Masterful. Well, really. Matter of fact, it was so good, I'm going to read it to you. So, if, just in case. Let's see, clear-eyed. How about clear-eyed? Maybe will clear-eyed work? Okay, okay. What I am seeking to do is to help. What I am seeking to do is to help, to indicate the nature of the tests and point out to you the reason why these tests and trials have overtaken you. Everything may seem to fail you. Your knowledge of psychology, your group of students, your friends and your brothers in the ashram. Think not that this indicates the fourth initiation, the crucifixion. That initiation has to be faced clear-eyed, free from glamour, with a heart full of love and a mind released from all criticism. For this, the second initiation prepares the disciple. You see this masterful way that he made this segue from releasing the man from the fourth, saying, here are the advantages of the second. Today, you know you are full of emotion and that it almost sweeps you off your feet at times. You know you are more prone to criticism than not, and you know that under the influence of glamour you oft wield the weapon of speech in a destructive manner and not constructively. You know that, deep within yourself, you are not satisfied with the work you do or the words you write. So this was the sort of transitional speech that DK tried to. It was such a letdown in a way for this particular disciple. No, he said, if you just drop all of your students and retire into the silence, you can take the second initiation. But he didn't. And I talked to some of his students. I talked to a 94-year-old woman who was one of his students in Ashland, North Carolina. She said, "Oh, no, he just couldn't abandon us," she said. He was told to stop teaching us, but no, he just wouldn't do it, as if this was a point of... So I'm kind of fascinated by this character because he came so close, and yet he rejected DK's advice to write a book on Shambhala. See, he was probably a first-ray monad, probably. His rays were 61161. With a first-ray monad, probable. But DK said, look, you've got to change to the second ray, and you're not doing that. And the book you just wrote is full of the sixth ray. Anyway, it's very interesting, to read this around page 570, 527, 528. He says, yet, my brother, had you occupied yourself with my suggestion and dealt with the theme, The Way into Shambhala, that's the title DK gave to him, that much of that Shambhala force would have transmuted along constructive lines and creative endeavor, and your condition would not be what it is today. So anyway, DK wrote them this wonderful psychological letter. Have I failed? No, you have not failed. You are at the climax or peak of the testing period. The only point to be determined is, can you overcome in this life and free yourself from astral control, or will the tests be prolonged until the next life? And they were apparently prolonged because he died not too long after it. Note, this disciple chose to withdraw from the Tibetans group, and until the close of his life in 1953 carried on his own established line of service. So you kind of wonder, what would you do? You can say, oh, well, I would listen to the Tibetan, wouldn't I? But you never know, It's so stressing to be in the presence of a master who just evokes from you everything good and everything bad. So how would you have reacted? Well, we'll get our chance one day to see. Anyway, this inner point of blue within the hidden diamond. So now, the inner burning light. Let's see, let's read in continuity if we can. Here it is. The inner burning light and the outer waiting fire, together with the rod, meet on the sphere of crystal. And lo, the work is done. The crystal rends and quivers. So we have to decide whether the sphere of crystal is the area within the causal body which is jewel-like, or whether the entire causal body is being considered to be the sphere of crystal. We're always told that Sanat Kumara wields the rod of initiation, but we're not told how he does so. And we are not told what the rod touches, how it moves, whether it touches the aura as a whole, whether it even touches the center, or whether it simply moves. Obviously, those are secrets of initiation, so we have to intuit this the best we can. All right. The inner burning light, and this is the intensifying light of the atomic triangle, plus the light at the heart of the jewel in the lotus. It's inside the causal body. This thing is, and the outer waiting fire, and this is the fire which I think is external to the egoic lotus, but which is used and invoked in breaking down the causal body. And it's drawn from various levels of the cosmic ethers, I expect. So the inner burning light and the outer waiting fire, together with the rod, the name of the rod is Sanat Kumara's rod. Flaming. Sword is good. Not right, but it's good. Flaming who? Flaming. There's a wonderful description of this thing, with its serpentine movement and its rotations and its reflections. Flaming diamond, right? The rods of initiation are very interesting. The Bodhisattva's rod, I don't know if it has a particular name. There's flaming diamond and the rod of sevenfold fire. What are the names of these rods? There is. Let's take a quick look because it's very inspiring. Flaming diamond. There are 9 flaming diamonds here. First to initiation. Let's see. The rod is known as the flaming diamond. The rod lies hidden in the east and holds the fire hidden that irradiates the wisdom religion. The rod was brought by the Lord of the world from Venus. Well, maybe from Venus. Maybe from Venus, or from the Venus chain. It's amazing stuff. And there's the 7-fold flaming fire. The flaming diamond stimulates the different centers in the different nations. It's used at the final initiations, at certain of the final, 5th and 6th, and it transmits force via the logos. Let's see, anything else? Let's see, here it is. The rod of Sanat Kumari, the rod of the Bodhisattva, the Christ, is surmounted by a diamond, which is not as great a diamond as the flaming diamond of the first Kumara, but is of rare beauty. At the time of initiation, when the electrical forces are tapped, this diamond revolves on its axis, picturing the rotary nature of atomic matter, because these are still initiations at the threshold. The rod of Sanat Kumara is far more intricate, and instead of the central rod or serpent standing on the tip of its tail, which is apparently the rod of the Bodhisattva, all 3 serpents are interwoven in a spiral fashion, and the flaming diamond which surmounts it is of such radiance that the effect is produced of a spheroidal aura cast around the interlaced serpents, typifying the form-building nature of the Vishnu activity. Now, probably, so that's a description of what happens. According to the initiation taken, a reflection will be seen from a part of the interlaced serpents, and the illusion will be created that the diamond is cycling up and down between the summit and the irradiated portion. At the same time, each serpent revolves upon itself and likewise circles around its neighbor, producing an effect of extraordinary brilliance and beauty and typifying rotary spiral cyclic force. Third aspect and second aspect together. The 7 types of spiral cyclic energy are suggestive of the nature of the planetary logoi which they represent. So there's an amazing picture of the activation of the rod called the flaming diamond. The rod of the solar logos, I think, is called the 7-fold flaming fire. That's the 3rd rod of initiation. And then there is the cosmic rod of initiation, which is wielded by the Logos of Sirius when he is initiating the solar logos and other planetary logoi and great beings. So that is a little bit about the flaming diamond and a bit about the rod. It's worth making a compilation on the rods of initiation. As a matter of fact, I think you have it. If you look inside all of these AAB extracts, you will find a compilation on the rods of initiation. Okay, so these are the factors which bring about the liberation of the man at this stage. So this phrase, together with the rod, this confirms that Sanat Kumara, as the one initiator, is active in this process. They meet on the sphere of crystal, and lo, the work is done. So let's read that all together and get the whole idea. The inner burning light, the outer waiting fire, together with the rod, meet on the sphere of crystal, and lo, the work is done. It rather sounds, doesn't it, like the inner, like the sphere of crystal is the entire causal body, does it not? It doesn't seem that the outer fire could penetrate into the inner sanctum of the egoic lotus, and that we would call the jewel area simply the sphere of crystal, because we have no way for the outer fire to get in yet, do we? What do you think? Say it again. Say it again. Okay. Well, is this, well, we don't know. But I think it's because it is the major rod of initiation. Maybe it was the Bodhisattva's rod of initiation used at the first 2. Maybe it might not be. And maybe it's just an editorial choice. And maybe it is there to really call attention to the fact that without Sanat Kumar's intervention, this would not occur. So there can be several reasons why this is the case, why the full capitalization. The causal body is probably represented as a very subtle standing wave. And hence, you know what a standing wave is? It's such active motion that all the structure seems to be standing still. You get a little idea when you look at a fan, don't you? When you look at a fan, what do you see? Sometimes, you know, the blades are turning so fast that they seem to stand still. You actually see the structure there. And they don't seem to move very much. They seem to hold the same place. You know it's an illusion, right? So maybe the causal body is kind of a very subtle standing wave, and maybe the sphere of crystal is the causal body. On the other hand, we are dealing with the jewel in the lotus, and the jewel could be called crystalline, yes. It is the life at the center of the jewel which must be liberated. So may it be that the rod of initiation of Sanat Kumara touches the jewel itself? Well, maybe, but then the outer fire would have no way into the jewel until the causal body is rent, and only then. In other words, you have an outer fire, but you have an intact causal body. The outer fire can't get in, and they all meet together. So if they were meeting on if we called the sphere of crystal the jewel in the lotus, the outer fire would have to come in, and it couldn't do that. So probably then, the entire causal body is the sphere of crystal. Now, can we think of any good reasons why it should be called the sphere of crystal? The cave, the causal body. See, to me, the organization of its energies is one reason. You know, and everything is circulating so fast that it seems still. So the perfect organization. See, why sphere of crystal when describing the causal body? And we say because of its organization, perhaps. Because of its power and its organization, which augments power. In other words, we have, by the time the causal body is destroyed, we have a very perfect organization operating. A perfected fire lotus, as it were. But maybe there are other reasons. You know, DK never describes the causal body as a sphere of crystal except in these old commentaries, the old words. But we have to ask ourselves why it could be so. When you think of your own causal body, how do you think of it? When you attempt to visualize, does the factor of crystal enter into your imagination? What about iridescence? Color, of course, would, wouldn't it? Yes, color would, and maybe sound, and certainly light, and radiation. But crystal? Maybe not so much. And yet that's what he calls it here, the sphere of crystal. But you know what's interesting about the word crystal? It suggests the possibility of shattering, doesn't it? When when you're carrying crystal, or the one thing you don't want to do, you don't want to drop it, right? You don't want it to shatter. So crystal suggests the possibility of shattering. Okay. The crystal rends and quivers. Now, when you rend something, what do you do with it? You break it, you rip it, you separate it. The rending of the blinding veil. The clear pronouncing of the truth and practice right. You know, this is what the third ray has to have, the rending of the blinding veil. So you read maybe chapter 10 in the rays and the initiations. How many of you have studied very carefully the rays and the initiations? With the emphasis upon the word very. Very carefully. It is, in a way, it is the great second-ray book. What we're studying right now is not a great second-ray book. It's a great first-ray, third-ray book. But the rays and the initiations is the book for synthesizing group work. It is somehow the book for the Aquarian age. It's the book for group work in the Aquarian age. Yes, of all those people who have transcended Bailey, I keep on wondering about the stanzas of Dzyan and the rays and the initiations. I wonder about how to transcend cosmic fire. Of course, if a thing wasn't written in the year 2000, it's old. Naturally, the stanzas of Dzyan are very old and deserve to be transcended. Don't you think so? Anyway, it's so ludicrous because it's usually the people who have not read in any depth at all that are busy transcending. Busy transcending towards some channeled material by some artificial imaginary angel who takes special interest in their spiritual welfare. What are you going to do, I mean, this whole spiritual field is full of idiots. I mean, present company accepted. Think of it. He says the occult group's the most glamored of all world groups. Obviously true. How should we avoid that and keep a level head? Get a crew cut. What? Do what? Keep reading Bailey, yes. And, of course, there's danger there, too. You got to practice something. But I do think that the Bailey teaching is somehow sane. And Blavatsky's teaching is very sane, too, obviously, although she worked under great pressure. And it will be very interesting to see what we get in the next 15 years. A lot of people have come forth with the new teaching, as you may know. Oh, it makes me sigh. It wasn't enough that DK said, I will be giving this teaching after the year 2025. No, you have to be ready at the stroke of midnight with your pen in hand and your ear cocked, The year may be the transitional moment from 1999 to the year 2000. I'm ready, Master. Okay. A number of people have come forward with the new teaching. Well, I always say to myself, okay, could you write this on your own? Or would it be impossible for you to write this on your own without hearing the words of the Master? And invariably I find that the individual can write it on their own, and that nothing new is there. Nothing new. You say what? Yes, and maybe improvised and elaborated and rearranged, But okay, this is a big test of discrimination. People would rather spend their time chasing after some new fabulous teaching than assimilate what has been given. Because that's work. To assimilate what has been given is work. And it's so much easier to say, here's the new and I'm the representative of it. And, you just race away with that. But it's too bad because it weakens the whole movement. If we would buckle down and actually absorb something here, we might be ready when the new teaching's ready to come. But instead we go chasing after will-o'-the-wisp, swamp gas. Anyway, off my soapbox. The crystal rends and quivers. And besides, Bailey isn't selling well in the bookstores. And money counts, right? Sometimes Bailey, Bailey used to be on the middle shelf in the esoteric section. Now, if you kind of creep around at the bottom and look around the corner, or maybe you look too high to see anything, you might find those books. So what does that say about the state of the spiritual quest? Oh, well, just persist. So the crystal rends and quivers. So it's the structure which confined life to the causal body. It is shattering because it has its own standing wave. Now that wave is disrupted. The first aspect within the causal body is about to be liberated. The volatile essence is about to return to Atma and Buddhi and thence to the monad. But the other two aspects and the contents they have generated will be liberated and drawn upwards as well, presumably into the spiritual triad. So you may break a causal body like you shatter an egg. There's a lot of esoteric truth in Humpty Dumpty. The egg has to break, right? The egg has to break. But the contents of the egg is abstracted into the spiritual triad. So the crystal rends and quivers. It is a wall. It is some sort of shell, as you were saying earlier today. It's a shell. Now, this is so interesting. 7 times the work proceeds. 7 the efforts made. 7 the application of the rod, held by a Lord of Flame. Now, when you read the words, a Lord of Flame, what is suggested to you? Why not the Lord of Flame? Why a Lord of Flame? Why is that a non-specific article? There must be more. You don't think for a moment that Sanat Kumara is the initiator on all planets. There are many planets, and they all have to have their initiators, don't they? They all have to have their hierarchs. So he is a Lord of Flame. He may be the representative of our planetary logos, but he is simply a Lord of Flame. Now, this is information which you can't get anyplace else. Think of it. Now, when you thought about any of these initiations, did it ever occur to us that there are 7 applications of the rod? Only in the old commentary here do we read something of that nature. 7 the efforts made to break out, perhaps. So there are probably 7 attempts. 7 attempts from within. 7 applications from without. We are being given important information about the initiatory process connected with the 4th initiation. So it apparently is applied 7 times. Now, what would we think of that 7? Applied to what 7 times? The rod of initiation applied 7 times. The fire seeking to break out 7 times. Maybe a little hint is the fact that the jewel in the lotus has 7 facets, and the monad has 7 facets as a jewel in the crown. So could there be, in a way, an application for each facet or in relation to each facet? I find it very interesting that the number 7 is involved here at the 4th initiation. I don't know if it's always the case. We don't know. How many times is the rod applied at the other initiations? This is a very complete application of the rod, related to the 7 chakras and the 7 principles of man. So, the 7 touches could signify the liberation of these principles from the confines of the temple. We just don't know. We do know, though, that 7 is a number of completeness, don't we? 7 is an important consummatory number, and when you've run the 7, you've completed what is there. 7 major planets, 7 major chakras, 7 major principles, all of that. So it's a very thorough kind of release of humanity, of the initiate from the human kingdom. It's consummated. And of course, what is interesting there, the consummation. What is the planet of consummation particularly? When you think about fulfillment and consummation, what planet brings you there? Jupiter, right? So is there a 7 connected with Jupiter? It's a major ritualistic planet. And its color is not only blue, but purple. So there's, yeah. Yes, it has the 7th ray, 2nd ray, 7th ray, and maybe some others. But it definitely has 7th ray. The whole idea of pomp and ceremony, of regal, what's the word? A dignified ritual is connected with Jupiter. And so I keep on thinking, this is an initiation of consummation. You are breaking a sphere. Jupiter rules the sphere. Maybe for a consummatory act, you do need 7 to be complete, to break this Jupiterian sphere. I don't know the other reasons for that. But anyway, there are 7 touches. And let's see what else is said here. Meet on the sphere of crystal, and lo, the work is done. The crystal rends and swivers. 7 times the work proceeds, 7 the efforts made to break out, 7 the applications of the rod held by a Lord of Flame. Yeah. Well, there have not been 7 initiations up to this point. There have been 6 initiations up to the point of the 4th initiation. In this respect, that there are 2 preceding initiations that precede the 1st initiation. We studied that when we looked at the egoic lotus. an initiation at the time that the three petals open together, and it gives you some kind of group spirit. And then there's an initiation that happens a little bit later in the Hall of Learning, which precedes the first initiation, and that gives you some degree of unselfish altruism. And then comes the first of the great monastic initiations, which is the birth of the Christ in the heart. So there have not been 7. There's only been 1, 2. The fourth initiation is, in a way, the 6th initiation in that series, starting from the preceding initiations. So we can't get the number 7 that way. Anyway, I think it relates to completeness. 7, the applications of the rod held by a Lord of Flame. And then this very interesting division of these 7. Now, sometimes when you look at 7, you say, oh, well, there's always 3 above and 4 below. Well, when you look at the mental plane, it looks that way. But then when you look at the etheric physical plane, it looks like 4 above and 3 below, doesn't it? Because you have 4 ethers and 3 of the dense levels. And when you look at the entire cosmic physical plane, what do you get? What do you get? What do you think? Again, you get 4 ethers and 3 dense, don't you? You get 4 above and 3 below. So, you have to ask yourself, when you're looking at a 7 and you divide the 7, what is more important? Is the 4 more important or the 3 more important? Or does it depend on the context? See, when you're dealing with the planes, the 4 is more important, isn't it? But when you're dealing with subplanes, like the mental plane, the 3 is more important. The higher mind is on the 3, and the concrete mind is on the 4. So let's see what it says. I mean, why does he say this? He says, there are the 3 lesser touches for the divine assistance. 3 lesser touches and 4 relating to divine assistance. What that says to me is, when I take a look at your own chakra system, what is the dividing line of your chakra system? Okay, and what do you have? 3 below and 4 above. Okay, so the diaphragm is like the dividing line between that which is divine or spiritual in our nature and that which is personal and non-sacred. So 3 are the lesser touches and 4 the divine assistance. Now, where is Sanat Kumara getting this energy with the rod of initiation? I would say there are energies coming from the cosmic ethers, Buddhic, Atmic, Monadic, and Logoic plane, and that there are energies related to the liberation of some of the lower factors of man, the 3 lesser touches. How can we conceive this? Let's see. Okay. The lesser touches may relate to the 3 lower principles and structures, to the forces contained in the atomic triangle, namely lower manas, Kama, and the etheric physical aspects. In other words, the 3 lesser touches may involve stimulation of the atomic triangle. Now, what do we do with the 4 higher touches, which bring in the higher energies? It will depend on how we number the principles, and they are differently numbered. It starts on page 259. There are about 10 different ways of numbering the principles. So the 4 higher principles may relate to the 4 higher touches. What could be considered the 4 higher principles? Atma, Buddhi, Manas, and the principle of causality itself. Sometimes the causal body is looked at as a principle itself. Those could be the 4. Another way of counting the 4 is like this: monad, Atma, Buddhi, Manas. Because what we learn is that somehow Sanat Kumara invokes the monad, and the monad brings in a destroying fire. And that fire is essential in liberating the jiva from the causal body. Now, maybe that destroying fire comes straight into the jewel in the lotus. But anyway, Sanat Kumara is how will we say it? important, necessary in calling in that fire. So there's a higher 4 and a lower 3. And here's the thing about the fourth initiation. Is it just the causal body that gets destroyed? Or, okay, well, you see, we're dealing with the destruction of form, right? Right? But is it just the causal form that gets destroyed? What else gets destroyed? What else? Look at that rule of healing again. Both soul and form together must renounce the principle of life and thus permit the monad to stand free. Both soul and form together must renounce the principle of life. In other words, 3 touches will destroy the form, 4 touches will destroy the causal body. And then you have a dual liberation. The elemental lives go back to the reservoir, and the solar angels go back to the heart of the sun and the central spiritual sun. So 2 forms are destroyed, the form of the causal body and the form of the personality. Now, of course, you can, there are those special cases where you can maintain your life as a personality even as the causal body is destroyed. And, in the East, when you take the fourth initiation, followed by the fifth, that is what happens. What about Master DK? When was he born? When did he take the fifth initiation? Did he take the fourth initiation in the same life? Blavatsky was taking the fourth initiation. Did she take it? Was she taking it? She was taking it. But Master DK was her teacher. He had already taken it. It's quite rare, I think, to be born as a fourth degree initiate. Does that make sense to you? In other words, if you're a fourth degree initiate, you don't need to be born, right? So it's quite rare to be born a fourth degree initiate. But if you're born as someone who can take the fourth initiation, you can frequently take the fifth in the same life. Did Master DK do that? I think so. Well, maybe you can. Maybe you can. Yes, yes. Now, some of the masters seeking to economize on time say, I choose not to be born. I think I'll use one of my disciples who can be born, grow up, present me with a vehicle, and then I'll use it. That's time economy. That's what Master Jesus did with Apollonius, I believe. That's what the Christ did with Master Jesus. That's what the Buddha did with Prince Siddhartha, maybe. We've talked about that before. That's a very interesting idea. Because, look, does the head of the hierarchy have to go off into the woods and try to renounce everything to learn what enlightenment is? It doesn't make sense. That's what the Buddha did, or, the Gautama, or Prince Siddhartha, whatever his name was. He went off in the woods, and then he learned about renunciation, didn't he? He learned how the true renunciant actually can operate, not too extreme. So he was busy taking the fourth initiation, I think, overshadowed by the sixth initiation of Gautama, of the Buddha himself. So in order to economize on time, you use a disciple who has grown up his body and grown up his personality, and who has his sixth petal open. That's what DK says. You can't do the work of giving your body to a higher being unless your sixth petal is open. So what does that imply in terms of your initiatory status? If your sixth petal is fully open, it fits. Fifth petal fully open is what? What degree? First. Sixth petal open? Then? Second. So there's your connection between the astral plane, out of which, into which you slip, and the monadic plane, where your sixth degree initiate can come in. Or maybe someone who's not a sixth degree initiate, but there's a connection between the monadic six and the astral six. 6 petals, the second initiation, ruled by the sixth ray. So unless we're a second degree initiate, we cannot give our body over to a higher teacher. and slip out onto the astral plane while that teacher uses the body. Okay. Anyway, a little digression. There are the lesser touches for the divine assistance. And I think divine is that word again, which minimally comes from the cosmic ethers. So we reach up. Sanat Kumara brings 7 touches to us, 3 relating to the lower worlds and 4 relating to the higher worlds. And the result is that we are liberated into the higher worlds. The higher world, in this case, being the Buddhic plane. As a 4th degree initiate, that's how we're liberated. Okay. Now, at the final 4th, the work is done and the whole cave disrupts. The final 4th, what is this final 4th? What does it mean? Yes, the 4th touch of the fourfold touches, right? The 4th of the 4. So when the 7th touch is the final 4th, then the cave disrupts and the work is done. And look, all these other things that are coming in to make your cave disrupt, they all depend on the rod of initiation to make this possible. So if the cave disrupts, we don't know too much about the disintegration of the causal body. Does it happen all at once? Is it like a supernova? Or do different parts of it disrupt at different times? We know that we are left with something that has to be cleared. Causal debris. And it's finally cleared by the time the 5th initiation occurs, which is the revelation. So the smoke clears, if you take the 4th and the 5th in the same life, then you're busy clearing the smoke and the debris until you can see with utter clarity what the revelation is to be. In other words, the revelation is ruled to me by Leo and the Sun. Something about what the purpose of the solar logos really is in relation to the planetary logos. He doesn't say what this revelation is at the 5th degree, but we can imagine. So the last of the 4 touches, the lighted flame within spreads through the rending wall. The lighted flame, so at the center of the jewel in the lotus, gathering all the light together, it goes through the cracks in the wall. The wall is being torn apart, and your light blazes forth. This is kind of the supernova effect in our own 4th degree. It mounteth to its source. What's the it? The lighted flame? What do you think? The lighted flame within spreads through the rending walls. It mounteth to its source. Now, but we just learned something. What is its source? The monad is its source. Does it go there immediately? Well, we just read something very interesting, didn't we? That the jewel power, the monadic presence in the causal body, goes first into Atma Buddhi. However, it does so, and thence to the monad. But anyway, in general, it mounteth to its source. There is a sense in which the source of the power of the jewel of the lotus is the monad, but is also fed by another source. In other words, if we read carefully, we will discover how the synthesizing petals are created. They're created from the Buddhic plane. And also, there is a sense in which the atmic plane is connected to the jewel in the lotus. Here, I think this shows us. Take a look. Here is the highest aspect of the monad. Here is a direct line coming down to the jewel in the lotus. And here is a kind of activation of Atma which descends into that general vicinity as well. See, I think it's like this, although this chart doesn't show it. The monad is the stimulator of the jewel in the lotus, but there are 3 synthesizing petals. And I have a feeling that there are 3 aspects of divinity represented in each one of these synthesizing petals. So, we don't have anything big enough to show that, but I wouldn't be surprised if one of those synthesizing petals is atmic, one is buddhic, one is manasic, representing the synthesis of knowledge, synthesis of love, synthesis of power. Anyway, it all gets synthesized. That's the point. And it rises. It mounteth to its source. Nothing is lost. The source is the energy of the monad itself. There is a direct line of connection. We have seen that. Does the mounting occur immediately? This can be questioned, but eventually so. The jiva in the jewel in the lotus returns to the monad and takes its place in the planetary logoic crown. We'll talk about that in just a minute. But first to Atma Buddhi. And we just looked at that, didn't we? As a matter of fact, what I did was I made sure there was a reference to that point. So let us take a look. AAB extracts and date modified and okay, here it is. This is the one. The central electric fire becomes centralized in Atma Buddhi first, and then returns to the crown. Now, how that works, we don't know. We have to just leave that into the care of the process itself. All right, we're almost finished with this one, and we will try to discuss it just a little bit, your questions and whatever, and we'll read the whole thing. Okay, but first to Atma Buddhi. Now we go on. We're almost there. Another fire is merged. Fire electric and fire solar is merged. The electric fire of Atma and of the monad has entered and has merged with solar fire. A greater integration has been achieved, and another, and this is the beautiful climax of the whole thing. Remember, we called Sanat Kumara the point of blue within the diamond. Is that what we called him? Was that our statement? Now look what happens. Here's your reward. Another point of blue findeth its place within the diadem logoic. What is a diadem? A diadem? Diadem? It's like a tiara, like a crown, like... So what is this telling us about ourselves? What is happening here? What is the final result of this whole process? And how does this process relate you to the planetary logos? Because it's all in the sentence. What do you think? Another point of blue findeth its place. Well, in other words, here's the point of you, the monad, are a point of blue. You, the life, are a point of blue. Sanat Kumara is a point of blue within the diamond. And you are a point of blue who is transported where? Into what? There was that wonderful TV series a long time ago. It was called The Jewel in the Crown. It was that, sort of English story about India. Sometimes India was called the jewel in the crown. The crown was the English Empire, British Empire. But you are a jewel in the crown. In other words, the monad is a jewel. And you are a point of blue within the jewel. This is very interesting. Sanat Kumara is a point of blue within the diamond. You become similarly. You are transferred into the crown of the planetary logos. The planetary logos is wearing a crown. It must be a brilliant display. Does it mean his head center? What does it mean? I want to look at this. You wear a crown on your head. Point of blue registering the jewel in the crown. The crown is worn on the head, right? Are we speaking of the head center of the planetary logos and your place as a monad within that crown, within that center? Now we're told that as monads, every one of us has a place within one of the chakras of the planetary logos. There are 7 great monadic centers, which are equivalent to 7 chakras. Perhaps in the head center, There are 7 head centers in a planetary logos. We have 7 head centers. Everybody has 7 head centers. As a monad, we belong in one of them. So somehow we are a perfected, well-cut jewel who is lifted up into a new function in relation to the planetary logos. And all of this is as the result of the 4th initiation. Now, I imagine we don't know if it's immediate or gradual. First to Atma Buddhi, and then to the crown itself. But eventually, we must shine in the crown. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's at the 6th initiation where we're really anchored right there in the crown. How does it feel to be a jewel in the diadem of the logos? Does that sound like an appealing prospect? You see? I missed it, sorry. Okay. I think we seek greater intimacy with the great Lord of life of our planet. We're already a part of him, but we seek conscious participation in the purpose of the great logos. So this is a very climactic kind of stanza number 7. Now, I'll tell you what, let's just read this straight through and then see what our impressions may be. Yes? Relating to what it just asked. It would be weird or unusual or... It would be weird that we didn't belong somehow. Yeah, there should be a connection. Yes, as monads, we certainly are. And from the very beginning, every monad is within a certain center. But I think sometimes the monads change centers from which they work. And I'm not sure whether it's according to the ray alone. I think it's according to spiritual status sometimes. So it looks like somehow we're transferred consciously into Shambhala at a certain point. And that's what I think it means to be a jewel, a point of blue within the crown, within the diadem. And there's such an analogy there to what Sanat Kumara is. It's not by accident. We were given the name of Sanat Kumara as the point of blue within the diamond. And now it says another point of blue is transferred into the diadem. It's kind of a metaphor. A symbol of the color blue, which represents relations to the rays. Yes, I think it has to do with Sanat Kumara's second ray nature, and maybe with the second ray nature that all of us have, being part of this particular planet with its second ray soul. The blue is somehow very important to this planet. It's a blue-green planet after all, and the blue is growing. Even in our solar system, what do we have? We have 2 colors that are fighting with each other in our solar system right now, don't we? Blue and green. Yeah. It's almost like a blue-green solar system, in a way. It makes what? Turquoise. Okay. Oh, I see. It makes turquoise when blended together. I see. Okay. Yes, that's interesting. And turquoise is with the Aquarius. Yes, exactly. It's given. Yeah, exactly. It's connected with Aquarius in that respect. And if you think about it, well, I was thinking about our planet particularly, a blue-green planet. The only other planet which has the first ray monad, the way our planet does, is Uranus, the major ruler of Aquarius. Not just the orthodox ruler, but it's the highest of the hierarchical veiled rulers, Uranus. So it does connect with this turquoise idea and ray 1. Well, there's many mysteries of planetary lore. So one day we will become the perfect jewel, and we will know the purpose of the planetary logos. We will be related to the head center of the planetary logos, because after all, that's where the diadem is worn. We will be agents of plan and purpose. We will be, sometimes they call it, custodians of the plan and registrants of the purpose and custodians of the plan. The Nirmanakayas are registrants of the purpose, right? And the custodians of the plan are the masters. So this is our destiny. And I think you know how Master Jesus and the Christ work together on initiations 4 and 6. This is a kind of a 4-6 relationship right here, isn't it? You take the fourth, and it doesn't tell you how immediate it is, but by the time you're a pure monad, you are transferred into the crown, because then you can break loose from all the lesser vehicles below on the 5 lower planes. I know it sounds a long way away, and we have all of our human work to do, which is difficult. But I think it's very helpful to be given a kind of a destiny here. This, you could say, is monadic destiny. What part of the crown will you be placed within? You will become a planetary life, a liberated monad, no longer compelled to work within the 5 lower worlds. Oh well, we all have our objectives, don't we? And just think espresso. Yes. Okay, so here we do. We're going to read it and then your responses. So try to get into sort of a little, receptive state, and forget the god of sleep. That's what Master Morya says about people. He says, sleep is their god. He's not happy about it. The Buddha is said to have said that anybody who can stay awake for 48 hours can accomplish anything. But I guess there's the question of the quality of consciousness during those 48 hours. It's not toothpicks. He was very alert, the Buddha, the supremely awakened one, very alert. Riseth the cave of beauty rare, of color iridescent. Shineth the walls with azure tint, bathed in the light of rose. The blending shade of blue irradiates the whole, and all is merged in gleaming. Within the cave of iridescent color, within its arching circle, standeth the fivefold one, demanding further light. He struggleth for expansion, he wrestleth towards the day. The 5 demand the greater 6th and 7th. The surrounding beauty meeteth not the need. The inner warmth sufficeth but to feed the urge for fire. The lords of flame look on, they chant aloud. The time has come, the time for that which we wait. The time for which we wait. Let the flame become the fire, and let the light shine forth. The effort of the flame within the crystal cave becometh ever greater. The cry goes forth for other aid from other flaming souls. The response comes. The Lord of Flame, the Ancient One, the mighty Lord of Fire, the point of blue within the hidden diamond. The youth of timeless aeons assisteth in the work. The inner burning light and the outer waiting fire, together with the rod, meet on the sphere of crystal, and lo, the work is done. The crystal rends and quivers. 7 times the work proceeds, 7 the efforts made, 7 the applications of the rod, held by a Lord of Flame. 3 are the lesser touches, 4 the divine assistance. At the final 4th the work is done, and the whole cave disrupts. The lighted flame within spreads through the rending wall. It mounteth to its source. Another fire is merged, another point of blue finds its place within the diadem logoic. It's really majestic, isn't it? Incredibly solemn, majestic, and purposeful. Are a lot of initiations taken at the point of physical death? I don't think that. He said this, which should be encouraging to many in this group, that it's a lot easier to take initiation after the age of 50 than at any other time. because then the body is trained and it throws up a lot less resistance. But you have to be a little bit strong to take initiation. And generally, when you're just about to die, I don't think it's a very good moment for that. I've never really heard that, although there are certain realizations that may come. But don't forget, to support the energy of initiation, which has to enter the brain and the physical body, you have to be able to stand it. And usually when you're just about to die, you're not in the best physical condition. Well, that's another thing. You see, can initiation cause death? Yes, yes. Well, I suppose it can. Would you like to try? Bring it on. Bring on the force. I remember what happened when T. Suba Rose said, "Bring it on." He said, "Master, I'd like all my karma now." Wow, if you ask for something, you just might get it. So. Well, he was a high soul. He was a high soul. Kind of like Blavatsky. They were kind of like they argued a bit among themselves. They were kind of like arhats arguing, almost fourth degree, maybe fourth degree. But they all had great insight, but he did ask for it. And as a young man, he got it in that way. HPB I don't think she had a whole lot of respect for her physical body. She just made it do whatever had to be done, So she kind of wore it out, really. I mean, she was only 60-something when she died, right? 1831 to 1893, 62 years old, something like that. Yes, I didn't want to get into that, but it was the cigars that did it. Cigars, whiskey. Well, who was HPB? And, she was quite a medium, so who was home at when, At different times, different ones of the great ones used her vehicle. It must have been a heck of a life, A life of great sacrifice and renunciation. But when you think about what we in the West owe to that particular disciple, that's extraordinary. Think of that. The whole theosophical movement, the wisdom of the East coming in a coherent form to the West and then inspiring Alice Bailey. But basically, of course, the Tibetan was behind that in a way, as was the trio of masters, Master M, K, H, and DK. They were the ones that really wanted to bring the wisdom teaching to the West. And, among masters, there is also disagreement in points of view, and other masters says they're not ready. And who knows who was right? Are we ready? There's just a few, How many are really ready? So we will see whether we were ready or not. Okay, so now you've heard stanza number 7. You've thought through it. What do you think? It's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Do you feel a little more knowledgeable about what's involved in the energy process of the fourth initiation? Who's involved? What's involved? Later in these stanzas, it talks about how the initiator invokes the power of the monad to shatter the causal body. The fourth great cycle of attainment, this is called. Now, this is a little bit ahead, but don't forget, page 85 and 86, or 84 and 85, of Initiation Human and Solar, the second, third, and fourth initiation can be taken in the same life and usually are. Ooh, I mean, when I heard that, I said, ooh, because it sounded so arduous. To one of the disciples, he said, well, you are taking the second initiation, and so you see we rate you highly. We have a high rating of you. Our rating for you is high. This was the same one who thought he was taking the fourth. But sometimes they can be very close together. It's the climax of a long period. But do you ever feel like you're running out of energy? Why did that thought just come to me? Do you ever feel like maybe you don't have enough energy to really break through? I think, sometimes we tend to feel that way. However, where does the energy come from? Do you think, yeah, well, maybe I'm just too Aries, but you're Aries too. I wonder, I wonder if the initiate, would-be initiate, can get there by going with the flow. I wonder. On the other hand, you don't want to make problems for yourself. The old Wu-Wei idea, effortless effort, and so forth. Skill in action. So sometimes going with the flow is like skill in action. But on the other hand, Master DK makes initiation seem like a rather demanding process. So, he's quite severe sometimes, He says, whip yourself into shape. Not too many of us like to hear that. Going with the flow, drifting along. I don't know. But it's up to everybody. I know that 3 o'clock in the afternoon is not the best time to ask this question about the mighty effort required for initiation. Lunch has hit bottom. Two sides. Whip and going with the flow is like two sides of the same. Two sides of the coin. Well, this was the interesting thing. If you think about the qualities that Alice Bailey had to have, well, detachment, of course, everybody needs that, but rest and skill in action. So the rest and the skill in action part kind of fit with what we're talking here about moderation. I just think there's no generalization that works. It depends on where you are, who you are, what is needed. You can't apply the same remedy to everybody. Yeah, well, you maybe not. Maybe you don't know what's needed. But on the other hand, you begin to become aware of what that next step may be. I guess, it really depends on how much one wants to break out of one's cave. We all have caves of consciousness, don't we? The last two stanzas have been about caves of consciousness. One is lower, one is higher. But even this marvelous causal body is a cave that has to be shattered. It's all about shattering our limitations. But we reach a certain age, a disciple of a certain age, yes. Yes, it is possible. And sometimes it can occur to take an initiation out of incarnation, but generally a physical brain is needed and a physical vehicle, most often. There are some instances, he even describes them in the book, where you can take the fifth initiation out of incarnation. In a way, I suppose Master Jesus did that somehow. I don't know whether he used the vehicle of Apollonius in order to take that initiation or whether he had taken it and then used the vehicle of Apollonius. So yes, it's possible. I guess it just depends on what we want and how much we want it. It's a question of aspiration. It's a question of fire. How much fire we have, how much we want to apply that fire to what we will to do. Because the time equation is really in our hands, very much. Not entirely. I mean, if I say, I want to take the sixth initiation tomorrow, I can't say the time equation is in my hands. But within reason, we have a lot to say about our degree of attainment. And what did he say? The major sin of the average initiate is what? Sloth. You remembered that one. All we have to do, if we look up the word sloth, S-L-O-T-H, which means basically laziness, we probably only find very few references. But it's really struck me. I wouldn't have thought that was the major sin. But that's slith. There's only two. All commentators agree as to this translation employing the terms sloth, languor, or laziness. This refers not so much to mental inertia as to slothfulness of the entire lower man, which prevents him from measuring up to the intellectual recognition and inner aspiration. So that's a nice description in the Light of the Soul from AAB. And then the major liability of the average initiate is sloth, or lack of speed. Ponder on that. I think that, that's so good because, when we get together like this, we may be reminded of the kind of aspiration which is required to really make achievement. But then we may go home and kind of slack off, as they say. Like the cord becomes a little bit limp, So I'm just reminded of, every once in a while when I come here, I'm reminded of what is required. If the fire is burning, in you, you will know what is required, and you will try to use every moment you possibly can to overcome sloth, or sloth, as it's sometimes called. A sloth is an animal that kind of lazily hangs, or is that the sloth? I can't remember who's the sloth and who's the sloth. But there is this lazy animal that just kind of hangs upside down from a tree, and I think it's called the three-toed sloth. And then there's acting like a three-toed sloth. You are slothful, So laziness, and as Alice Bailey said here, I never read that part before, but so I want to go backwards. I can't. Can't go back. Can't go back. Come on. No. But anyway, she describes it. All right. So are there impressions here? What kind of impressions do we have? What difference does it make now to have understood just a little better this particular stanza? We understand just a little better now, don't we? There are still areas, but basically they're not totally inaccessible, are they, these stanzas? Some of them are more so than others, but because some of them deal with cosmic processes. But this is right home, this is next door. This is tomorrow afternoon. This is the fourth initiation. This is easy compared with some of these other processes. Yeah, we've had two stanzas, number 6 and number 7, which are sort of microcosmic, not too difficult to understand. The other one was about individualization, stanza number 5, and I have in mind that we will read today, get into stanza number, I'm not sure it's the next one, I think it's number 8 or something like that. Let's see, 7 times the work proceeds, 7 times, don't leave me, computer. You see this? You see what's going on here? This computer protests. Okay. Another point of blue findeth this place within the diadem logoic. Just brilliant, beautiful. I'm not going to do stanza 7 yet because it's rather difficult. Stanza 9 is interesting. We are about to study the fate of those who refuse to incarnate in man, the slothful solar angels. Only 30 billion of them who refused to descend and said, "Ha ha, see you at the 7th round." But then they created a mathematical difficulty because the word came back, sorry, only at the 14th 7th will you have an opportunity again. And that takes us all the way into the 7th solar system, which is a problem since there are only 6. Well, there are 7 and there are 6, so we have to decide how many solar systems there are. Anyway, but I want to give you a chance to say something about the impact of stanza 7 upon you, what you may have learned. What do you think you have learned? What of greater interest is now impacting your mind? Maybe I should answer that question myself. Something to look forward to. Yes, we're on our way. Okay, why not? Absolutely. We're on our way. And somehow the beauty of the process, like Anne was saying, really strikes one, the beauty of it. And the cooperation of it It's all in good hands. But what about the arduous path to this point of readiness? What do you think there? Does it inspire us to work? That's the question. To work at what, though, is the question. Well, I don't think that anyone here is probably in danger of death through overwork. But but as a matter of fact, DK is always exhorting his disciples forward, and usually they like you say, they could go off the track, overwork at the wrong thing, but usually they just didn't have the drive to move into the kind of life that he was talking about. What about one of those disciples who couldn't? Yes, it was avoidance. It was avoidance. It was avoidance of obedience. It was a failure in occult obedience. Now, people have defined sacrifice so that it doesn't mean sacrifice, and they've defined occult obedience so it doesn't mean obedience, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't. See, in other words, I can define occult obedience is simply obedience to my soul. So I'm following my soul by not listening to my master. See what I mean? In other words, the master says something, makes a really good suggestion. If you do this, you'll be happy. And he says, I'm sorry, according to my own soul, I don't need to do this. But was it the soul? Because the soul and the master are one. So the master is, in a sense, reading the soul in making these suggestions. So, have you noticed among people that so often they say, well, my soul told me to leave this group. My soul told me to have a ham sandwich this afternoon. My soul tells me all kinds of trivial things, but it's my soul. But what is it, really? It's the imposter, as William Meader says. It's the personality pretending to be the soul. So it's not the soul at all. The imposter means someone who's faking their identity. Your personality is speaking and you say, oh, it must be the soul. My soul told me you are my soulmate. Okay. Have we heard that one? Maybe. Okay. Well, anyway, the stanzas are supposed to... Oh, wait. Something's coming through. Hold on. Yes?
But I am.
Oh, my soulmate has just told me that I am her soulmate. Of course, you haven't heard that. This is a private communication, but everybody else online knows it. Okay. I'm kind of stalling for time, hoping for some brilliant conversation here. But but we do have 18 minutes, and we can, with the energy that remains to the group, forge ahead into stanza number 9, unless someone would like to stall with me. Well, let's see. How long have we been working? I don't want to avoid destiny here, Destiny tells us that we have to get into stanza 9. It's just that I want to do it at that fiery white point of group intensity, which I don't find at the moment. But, would cake and cookies help? I mean, that's the question. Oh, that's right. Okay. So it has been unanimously decided by Mimi that a break is needed to clear the brain. This is my will is your will. This is the perfect Aries thing. I decide for us, absolutely. So we will have a little break, and we will come back in 15 minutes with a cleared brain, ready for stanza number 9. Okay, remember, you've individualized, you've fought your way out of the dark cavern, and you've broken your causal body, so go enjoy your cake. All right. Okay. All right, folks, we're going to take a little break here. Some of us are present. Some of us are only on the computer. I guess a few of us are here. Maybe Andrew, I'm not sure. Anu, you seem to be present. Asha, you seem to be present. Not sure about Edward. Ed, Elena, you're there. And maybe Elena Menejou, you're there in Greece. Maybe Eva, Gabrielle, Gary, Yermali, Jocelyn, Johanna, Linda, and the others are maybe simply having the computer on, possibly. All right, we will keep moving forward. Stanza number 9. And we will, okay, just wait 1 second. I'm going to, I'm going to turn things off into a restful state here for a moment and be back in 15 minutes. Hold on, Martha. Hold on. Okay. Okay, we'll take it up when we come back together. We'll do that.